All right, what's up, everyone? Finally upgraded my voice mod membership. I'll be playing around with more sound effects today. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining the Fireside chat. Welcome, Lars. Thanks for joining us. Lars is going to be presenting his Pomelo grant for us today.
Hello, everyone. Good evening from Israel.
We've also got Felix that's going to be presenting his grant today. We'll be talking about the hackathon that Phoenix has been And we'll just give a few moments for people to roll on in here. Thanks for joining us, everyone. CAC, Dario, Denis, Hernan, Yana, Jay Werner, Lars, Lion Flash, got Brendan, Mark, Octosur, Old Timers Offer, and Veronica in the house so far. Feel free to jump in and say hi. While we wait a few minutes, we'll get going at about 5 past. Daniel joining us. Busy week for Daniel, reviewing all the Pomelo grants. There's been a lot of Pomelo grants this season, which is great to see. We'll be talking more about that.
Really hard to keep up. But that is a good thing.
Absolutely. I haven't personally checked out any of the grants so far. I think my strategy is going to be to wait until submissions are over and then just dedicate a 4-hour block to just go through all of them and kind of figure out my donation plan. What about you guys? Has some people donations open as of today? I'm wondering if anyone here has made some donations so far.
I did. I just finished a round of 25 projects that I already knew I was going to donate, so I had no issue going over them. So I just donated a consistent amount. I'm still donating with half of my Eden delegate funds, and then I'll move over to donate with my personal funds. So it's 25 projects. So I don't want to take up all the meeting talking about the projects that I donated to, but of course there's by wire, ZEOS, EOS support, USN, a project called 3D Objects for NFTs on EOS, which looks very cool. Pizza, EOS News, the Korean YouTube, Anchor, of course, MindWeb from Patrick, Bet Now, which is a project that we're looking at on EOS Starter as well. Smart contract testing libraries, I think that's important. Content creator sponsorship for Felix, we all know him. So if you want to go through, my donation support, nice one, EOS Vision, which is a project led by our very own Veronica from EOS Starter. So check out that one. That's a really cool project as well. And yeah, it's super excited to be a part of this, and I can't thank enough the team, EOS Nation, Daniel, the Pomelo team, the foundation for the support. I think this is there's never been a better time to contribute to EOS. So yeah, I'm super excited for the grants round, and of course, I couldn't end but with a shameless self plug of our own grant for EOS Starter. So I'll just say, go check it out and check out the progress we've made. Thanks.
Awesome, great introduction to a Pomelo themed fireside place chat today. Thanks for that, Hernan. So might as well get into it. Lars, did you want to start us off and talk a bit about your Pomelo submission? Sometimes you got to check your mic settings, maybe right click the mic in the bottom left of the app, make sure that proper output is selected, because right now we cannot hear you. We'll give you a few moments here, figure out your mic situation.
In the meantime, I can give some quick stats on how on the grant submission situation. Like we said, we've got lots of grants coming in. We already almost have as many approved grants now as we had by the end of season 1. So there's currently 74 grants that have been approved. We've so far denied 8. There's 7 that currently have action required, which means those are grants that we've reviewed, but they didn't meet the bar to be considered a public good. This is a new status we introduced in season 2, and we've been finding it super helpful, actually. It's allowing us to have a little bit of a back and forth with the grant owners to help guide them towards getting their grant approved. And there's 8 grants right now in my queue that need to be reviewed still. From the grants that have been approved, 31 of them are returning grants that participated in season 1, and 43 are brand new. And speaking of that action required I was talking about, 11 of the grants that are now approved actually initially had they didn't get approved immediately. They didn't meet that public good bar. They went through that back and forth feedback process, were able to get their grant applications updated and improved to the point where they made that public good much more clear, and we were able to get those grants approved.
Lovely, thanks for that update. Okay, seems like Lars may be still working on his mic, but we've got Felix in the house, line flash on Discord. Felix, did you want to share a bit about your Pomelo grant? Well then. Yeah, we're just gonna play a bit of music, give the guys a few seconds to get organized.
Oh, sorry about that. I was talking to the mic. I didn't realize I was muted.
There we go. Welcome to Fireside, Felix.
Yep, thank you. So I did make a video. I don't know if we could attempt to, I guess, well, I don't know. I guess we could share it, or I could just talk about it and then provide the link to the video for those who want to kind of see, like, I guess, the product example of kind of what I'm aiming at with my Pomelo grant.
Yeah, why don't you explain to us, and I'll share the link in the stream chat, and so people can take a look at it if they want.
Okay, that worked. Okay. All right. So yeah, basically, what I'm trying to do is I think that Pomelo would be a great place to bring in, potential content creators to come and seek funding from the community in a form of a sponsorship. So my idea is, I want to be able to make content not that's just like specifically about crypto, just kind of surrounding like my journey of becoming a content creator. But the way I was wanting to incorporate Pomelo is through my grant would be dependent on how much I raise. Will be dependent on how many ads, and I have a broken down section in my funding details. But basically, I would have a video, and then in that video, I'm going to have a little ad section dedicated towards Pomelo EOS, and kind of just dependent on what the community would like me to talk about. So if you watch my product example, I had like a little, I guess, example of how I would do an ad. So, I'd have my video, and then somewhere in the middle, I'll take a section just to talk about whatever it is that, like I said, that basically whatever my contributors kind of feel they want me to talk about. But it'll be around EOS and Pomelo, and basically just kind of bringing on and marketing to hopefully the mainstream people that are not necessarily involved in crypto or know too much about it, and getting it in front of them. So I can go through the funding details if that's of interest to you guys. And then in my Pomelo grant, I do have several like hyperlinks that you can click through. And in my intro, I have the main video that I made specifically for this Pomelo season as my product example.
Yeah, great. So I shared a link to your Pomelo grant in the stream chat. Also, that product example that you mentioned, the ad on YouTube, and then also shared your Twitter. So if people want to follow you, they can do that. I would like for you to go over the funding detail. I was actually I like seeing that in your grant, actually, which gives basic different levels of content that you deliver based on the amount of funding. So if you want to go over that, I think that'd be nice.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically I broke down the funding details to be dependent on how much I raise, will be dependent on how I'll use those funds. So we'll just start from the top and go down. So basically I've already received donations. So we've already gotten, so one video will get a sponsored ad section. So that was, my limit was anything from any donation to $100. And then from $100 to $200, I will be doing 2 videos. And then from $200 to $300, I will be doing 3 videos. And so talking about the videos, right now, my current plan is to take more time to make more higher quality videos. So the current plan is to release a video per month. And so with Pomelo being a quarterly seasonal thing, that was kind of how I broke that out. So if I raise anywhere from $300 to $1,500, those funds that exceed the $300 will be rolled towards my grant in the next Pomelo season, kind of dependent on if I have a different approach of how I would like to incorporate the grant. And then from $1,500 to $2,500, if I'm in that range, I will have a one fully featured video completely themed around EOS. So I do have an example on my YouTube channel that I did last year of an idea of something I could use that creatively involves EOS, which is where I traveled from Colorado, Texas, only paying in EOS. And then I will also include still the 3 videos in total will still have the that sponsored ad section as well. And then from $2,500 to $5,000, those funds that exceed $2,500 will be rolled towards my grant in the next Pomelo season. And then if I raise from $5,000 to $10,000, I will do one fully featured video themed around EOS with the intention of using those funds to reach a larger YouTube creator with a minimum of 1 million subscribers. So I also did a video last year where I flew to LA and to pay a YouTuber, Eric, who currently has over 5 million subscribers to get into his Creator Now program. So he is a contact that I still could pursue it, but I'm also open to also pursuing other YouTubers as well, and trying to get them involved and aware about EOS, and then that would be captured in my content. And then if I were to raise anything more than $10,000, those funds that exceed the $10,000, I'm going to roll that into my next Pomelo season, because if I manage to receive this amount of support in this season, I would want to use those funds wisely, and I'd first want to evaluate the results and feedback from the videos before deploying any additional funds into my video projects. But with this type of amount of funding and support, I would start to really consider the Mr. Beast approach of creating videos. So for those who aren't aware of Mr. Beast, basically the way he utilizes all of his money that comes into YouTube, he puts it back into his videos through giveaways and funding those video productions. And I've seen a lot of other YouTubers starting to adopt that kind of, I guess, way of thinking, and it really does seem to be, there's something there, and I really do like the idea of giveaways because that gets EOS into the hands of the general public, and I also believe that giving attracts a lot of good things in life, and I think it could help with the mainstream adoption, as the word of mouth from the people who've received the free EOS would grow over time. And I like to think of this as like a EOS human faucet. So for those who aren't aware of or ever heard of a Bitcoin faucet, when Bitcoin was first deployed, they had these things called Bitcoin faucets, where basically you could get free Bitcoin by doing some tasks, by playing a game. But the whole idea behind that was to get Bitcoin into the hands of people and get it out there. And that's the best way to really, I think, get adoption with a cryptocurrency, is by giving it out and getting it to people. Because if you do, I think, kind of like little amounts and you're doing it through a lot, some people might not initially think about really trying to cash that in, especially if they're not in crypto. But if they're holding on and they're paying attention, and then with the appreciation of price with EOS, I think that would continue to feed the momentum and build the price action, because now people are going to get excited, like, oh wow, I maybe received anywhere from $10 to $100 of free cryptocurrency, and now it's worth $5 to $1,000, depending on the appreciation of the price. But that would get them excited, and then that would be kind of like their cryptocurrency that they talk to all their friends about, and then that's just, I think, a great way to really build this community.
Awesome, thanks for sharing. One quick question: when you say that excess funds would be rolled into your next grant for Pomelo season, what does that mean exactly?
So anything past that amount, I won't use. Like it will be like included into like whatever my next milestone or goal would be for my next Pomelo grant. So
So then
basically it's going to be untouched.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
A base to start your next grants with, where you'd be for sure delivering content maybe over a longer period than just these 3 months, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I said too, I think depending on how this goes, I'll have kind of a new. Oh, sorry about that. I'll have a new. I may have some newer ideas of how I would like to structure my grant. If I find like if I have a video project in mind and I feel really confident about that project, as I'm starting to get better with making these projects, and then I'd maybe have a more detailed funding breakdown of, like I said, kind of approaching it with the idea of we're going to be using these funds for the production side of things. So if I'm giving giveaways, then a portion of that's going to be it's going to come to me, but it's going to go throughout to the public.
Okay, great. Did anyone have some questions for Felix? You can jump on the mic or type them in the chat.
I have one, if I may.
Felix, so first of all, I already dumped a few EOS onto your proposal, so congrats for putting this forward. I'm really looking forward. I want to ask you, is the funds that you're gathering in Pomelo strictly on, assuming that we're not at the Mr. Beast production level stage, are all the funds considered going to pay for your time dedicated to doing these videos, or is this is this funding more than your time dedicated to this?
So some of it is, and then some of it is for funding the project. So, so the idea too is to shed light of like, hey, to other content creators who might see my videos, or maybe even newer ones. Well, they'll see a way of like, hey, I can come to a community and reach support, to help support me and my channel, and in return, I'm marketing for you through the ad section in my video. And so that's like on the lower tier. The Mr. Beast, like I said, is if I do end up receiving a lot of support and funds, that's kind of like the, I guess you would say, longer term vision of what I'm kind of hoping for. And so yeah, so if yeah, right now, basically, if you look at like the sponsored ad section, so like the $100, I was thinking, $100 per video for an ad section would be something that I could talk to. Is like, as a content creator, it's like, I'm just getting started. I'm not making any money off of subscribers, but I have found a way to, anyway, start to monetize my channel through the support of a community. Kind of like how Dogman had mentioned, thinking about it of like a Patreon, but these funds are being used in a form of marketing though, because there will be an ad section that is going to be required because I am receiving these funds. That's going to be dedicated towards, uh, educating the public or informing them about EOS and Pomelo.
So just let me understand. So you would be also paying for ads to promote the video, or would you be placing ads on the video of different EOS projects? I maybe didn't quite get what the plan is there.
So I'm not sure if you were able to watch my my product example. So basically, the video starts out and it's not centered around crypto in particular, even though it was very heavier on the Pomelo side. My idea is I want to be able to make content. Like right now, I'm in a position where now I'm wanting to make content surrounding my journey of becoming like a content creator through filmmaking and photography, and make videos talking to those points and my journey around that. But in that video, I will have a section where, if you watched other YouTubers, some YouTubers will do like, this video was sponsored by, and so that would be that section. So in my video where I would say, this video was sponsored by Pomelo or EOS, and then I would talk to that and educate the public, and hopefully the goal would be to inspire somebody else who may see that that's also a creator to maybe want to come do the same thing, because they're like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like I might be able to get some monetization towards my channel and get sponsorship, and you're allowing the community to decide, your worth of marketing to the people. And that's why I said my kind of vision is I could see Pomelo really becoming a place where creators could come and be like, hey, I make content too, and I would like to be sponsored by the EOS community, and in return I will have a ad section in my video, and you guys are going to be my sponsor for that.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm looking forward.
So it's been just about 15 minutes, which is kind of the time frame we want to keep it to. Maybe if there's one more question, we can take it. If not, I'm going to invite Lars up next to talk about his grant. So let's just, Lars, are you ready to go? I see you unmuted yourself. Maybe you're still having some mic problems.
There's something I'd like to ask Felix. If if there's time for that, or if Lars isn't ready yet.
Yeah, go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Stefan, and thanks, Felix, for all the great work. I'm a huge fan of watching your videos, and I'm very excited to see more what you do. And also thanks, Hernan, for all the great questions, too. I haven't read the pitch yet. I just started to open it. I'm going to check out the video later today. But I'm wondering, I'm not sure if you described it, but like, do you have any idea, Felix, about like what kind of video you want to make? Like, and maybe are there any video ideas that you have in mind? If you raise the, I think it was like $2,000 or $5,000 about like different videos you can do with EOS. And you mentioned the video you did last year with driving across the country and also maybe working with a very popular YouTuber. So yeah, I'm just wondering, do you have any like exciting ideas that are in your mind about like really cool kind of videos that you'd like to make with this?
Yeah. So as of right now, it really will be dependent on what I raise. If I do hit those milestones, then I do have ideas. So like a fully featured EOS video. So the one from 1,500, 2,500. I think the idea would probably be centered around doing some form of a giveaway with EOS. So yeah, it'd be similar to, like I said, the traveling, using EOS in some form and giving it out to general people. And so and then the bigger one, if I get anywhere from 5 to 10,000, I'm currently the one that sticks in my mind is because when I did that video where I flew to LA, like I don't feel like I executed that like well. I could do a lot better, especially now with like newer equipment that I have and kind of like I'm starting to gain more confidence in what I'm doing. So I would go visit. I'm thinking about maybe going after Eric again to get back into a Creator Now program, because I do think he had shown interest of trying to get his program and integrating that with cryptocurrency. And so I just think that would be cool to go try to visit him again. And at the time I did that, I think he might have been like 1-2 million subscribers, and now he's over 5. So he's definitely growing and continuing to grow. And so I think, I know where he lives. So I'll be able to track him down and be able to make some form of content around that. And that's kind of the idea I'm thinking of if I reach that bigger amount of funding from 5 to 10,000.
All right. Thanks a lot. And thanks for the question.
Thanks. Sounds great.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Thank you for allowing me to do this, Stefan. And then thank you for your questions, and everyone who's supported and contributes towards this cause. I appreciate it. And I'll do my best to make sure that those funds go to the best use as possible that I can do.
Thank you. Lars, do you want to give it a shot?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are live.
Yeah,
on the Fireside chat. You got
thanks, man. Yeah, I have this beautiful Shure SM7B mic, and I was really hoping to use it, but it's apparently there's something going on between the Mac and whatever with Discord. So I'm just back on my phone, so you don't get to hear the buttery smooth mic, but I'm here.
You're still coming in pretty clear.
Good.
So talk to us about your grant.
Okay, great. So my name is Lars Kommiez. I've been in the EOS community, since the very first token distribution. I remember sending a shitload of ETH to a smart contract that I was absolutely sure was never going to be seen again, because I had to go through all these VPNs and everything to do it. But yeah, that's like one of my proud things, is that I've been here since the very first token distribution. I'm a member of Eden, formerly EOS Detroit, and co-founder of Facings, and just general goodwill in the EOS community or EOSIO community. I've done a lot of comics and NFTs and things like that for to just kind of to help spread the word and get things out, which is ultimately what this project is about. So when I was a kid, I used to, like a young punk kid in like Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's where I first kind of found zines and like the power of kind of self-publishing. And that's where I learned about things like being vegan and like free Tibet and all these things. They were sort of an alternative to like mainstream news and media and things like that. So I just kind of locked onto them early, and I kind of found them to be a sort of decentralized at the time, before that was really the kind of terms in the context of what we think of decentralized as, for like flow of information. And sometimes it was rough, and sometimes it was satirical, and sometimes it was raw. And that's the part about zines I've always liked. So I did pass a link along to Stefan. I don't think I can post it myself here on my phone, but if it's in the chat that accompanies this stream, I have this kind of example of what the zine would look like. Back in 2014, I did a photography event in LA and Minneapolis called Noir. And for that particular year, I did basically a zine helped promote the event, and we basically printed out like a few thousand in each city and sort of distributed them. And the one that I have, or should be trying to share with you, is through Issue, and it kind of gives you like a look at like what I conceptualize a finished version of Immutable Realms to look like. It turned pages, and it's got like little breakout articles on lots of different things with the event, but it's shareable, and I think that's one of the most powerful parts of this whole medium, is that a lot of the people in our community, most of us, we understand like some of the complexities of all this, whether it be governance concerns or resource management, things like that. But to like people that are not initiated to like blockchain, that's very boring and over their head stuff. And my hope is that like using comics, we could kind of tell a lot of those stories and make them a little more entertaining. I kind of think about like the general ubiquitousness of like Avengers movies. Like everybody watches Avengers movies, and generally everybody likes Avengers movies. And I'm just trying to tell a lot of the same principles of like some of these really complex issues that we're solving in EOS. And I mean, not just community members, but I mean the hard work that the devs are doing. Like, things like Aaron, I remember Aaron's wallet was the first way I ever interfaced the blockchain. Like, and that was super exciting for me. And like, I would love to tell those sort of stories, like tell the Anchor story, for example, through, some kind of crazy, like galactic, like Rosetta Stone comic that explained how the interface works and how, you connect to something that gives you access to this vast amount of resources and technology that, really doesn't exist outside of EOS or EOSIO. And so that's the short version of it. I mean, if you check my, it's pomelo.io/EOS zine, EOSIO zine. And there may be a link in the chat if Stefan's able to drop one. But you'll see some of the examples of the work I've already done. When I was with EOS Detroit, we used a lot of these kind of comics to sort of, we couldn't compete against a lot of the other block producers in a head-to-head technology point of view, just because we didn't have that kind of money. But my strategy was more or less we could use comics and hope that they go viral to sort of, earn some goodwill with the token holders and hopefully move up the ranks in the block producing hierarchy. And that actually worked. It did work. And that's kind of like more broadly what I'm hoping, Immutable Realms can do, just, kind of lift the whole EOS world or the EOSIO ecosystem and get more people to pay attention of it, and generally just make it more entertaining. I have two funding tiers that I would hope to meet. One is $10,000, one is $25,000. If I were to reach the $10,000 mark of funding, that would be a project of 16 pages, and that would be done by myself. I would probably still be hiring, like EOSB's, Jesse from EOSB's, his project for some translation and things like that. But the real goal, the one I would hope to achieve, is the 25,000, which would give me the resources and the funds to start hiring within the community. So, hiring other artists beyond just myself, hiring some writers and editorialists And even with like EOSB's hiring a lot more translation, like get the zine turned into, maybe potentially like 5 languages, include, various languages beyond just Chinese and Korean. So yeah, I guess that's the general idea of it. I guess I'll just kind of open it up to questions, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, beautiful pitch. I shared those links in the stream chat that you were mentioning. So definitely encourage people to check out the Pomelo grant, the zine example, and then your social media links, people to follow you. So yeah, so we'll open it up to questions. Anyone here got some questions for Lars? Personally, I think it was pretty well explained. On my side, I don't really have any questions. I looked over the grant earlier today. Looks well put together, and yeah, you did a good job explaining what it's all about.
Thanks. Well, I will just make a quick commentary on this. This was since I probably have a minute or two to kind of riff. But actually back in the Steemit days, when I was on Steemit, one of the milestones that network hit was having like an SPS work proposal system, and I was really pumped about that at the time because I actually wanted to do a comic, not like a zine. I wanted to do an actual comic book, and I made a proposal on there. It was like one of the first, and it started this massive controversy over, that's not what this is for. Work proposal systems are not for art. Just post these as normal content. This is for dev work and stuff. And it kind of didn't happen. But it started this broader conversation about what work proposal systems should be used for. And that's one of the things I'm really happy. Now, I mean, my first season 1 pitch didn't hit funding, but I mean, generally there was a lot more people trying to do content creation, and even Felix with the pitch he just made right before mine. It's, to me personally, as like an EOS member, EOS token holder, and an Eden member, like I'm just really happy and grateful to see that people are really coming around to understand that like content creation actually is a very valid part of building and growing these communities and these networks. So that's all I'll say on that.
If you reach your goals, do you plan? Obviously, you're the artist and can decide whatever you choose. But would you be open to creating like a Telegram group or a Discord channel to just kind of take some feedback, and then you could decide what you want to do with it? Or do you just want to be the sole idea man and just do what feels best for yourself?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I think of this as an open source project. So I basically think of the platform, of course, it would have to be created down in some capacity. But yeah, I actually did a sort of a pitch this morning with Jimmy D on his podcast, and even he said that he was like, I would love to write something for this. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, there would be the infrastructure that would go along with this would be something along the lines of a Discord channel or a Telegram group, and then we could take more or less find reach some consensus on like what are the most important things that should be included in the zine. Like maybe part editorial, part comic, part instructional. One thing that came up earlier was just the idea of like, since it would be a shareable publication, we were thinking like like with Anchor, like you could even do a 1 page or maybe full page spread of like how to use Anchor for new users, and that becomes something that ends up being shareable for new users. But then once they're actually looking at those pages of the zine, then they also have 30 other pages of different types of content, articles and things like that. The main thing is for whoever wants to contribute, and however we come to that decision on who contributes, I would like to pay people for their time and their work.
Beautiful.
Hey.
Anyone else?
I would just like to say thank you, Lars. I've been following your work. I listened to you on a couple podcasts over the past year or so, and I was just reading the pitch. I haven't had a chance to read it totally, but it looks really awesome. And like, I'm very curious. I'm excited to listen to that interview with Jimmy D, and learn more. Like, I think that it looks so cool, and like, there's so much potential. I'm very interested to like, I don't know if it's within the scope of this call, and it's not really specifically related to the Pomelo pitch, but I would love to hear more about like your long-term vision and what you love to make with this. But yeah, yeah, thanks so much. I think this is really exciting, and I totally agree with what you're talking about too, with content creation being so valuable for the EOS ecosystem and really helpful with Pomelo. So yeah,
Cool.
thank
Thanks,
you very
man.
much.
Is your style strictly like the line drawing, or because I'm just looking at your Pomelo proposal, the one you chose, the colors are just kind of like accents. Is that just your style that
Yeah.
that's what you do,
So
or yeah, or do you do color
yeah,
also? Just curious.
I do some color. I will say that's not particularly like my strongest suit. Usually when I do color, it tends to be accent color like that. And also like I grew up like I remember like Spawn, like Image Comics. They did like Spawn and stuff like that. That era of comics when I was like really most influenced by art was everything was a lot of stuff coming out was like pencils and inks, and I think it just sort of stuck with me. I really like that look, and it really lends itself well to like because zines can really be anything, but my experience with zines are they usually were like these shitty black and white like Kinko's, photocopies that they look rough. They look like an old punk or hardcore flyer, like if you were going to see like Black Flag or something. And that's I like that style, but I was thinking, especially if I'm able to hit the second tier of the funding, the guy that Adam Matheson Sword that I work with a lot, he and I did Garbage Pail Kids for Tops on wax, and like he's an incredible colorist, and like he is someone I would definitely have in mind to hire for some, to have a few pages or maybe a center page spread that would be color, like full color.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, where I see the most value is in some of this could be evergreen, so it's kind of like almost serves as a visual FAQ. It almost tells it tells a story, like you said, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. That's kind of the value I see, is just something that's reusable over and over and over again to kind of answer questions in groups and stuff. And I think the good example of it is your clans one, the very first image in there. It kind of does tell the story of all of the EOSIO chains, and I think that's really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
thanks
that's
EOS.
one of my favorites. The clans one was so much fun to work on, and yeah, I liked it the most too because the arts, it was cool and it was fun to work on, but it really does kind of summarize like how this all started. Like we had this like kind of the dragon represented this like elder god, and all these little clans like emerged from that genesis, and then there was like this idea of like they had to bind together with some sort of like oath to have some sort of, and that was actually when there was a lot of like weird controversy happening when I did that piece, and that was sort of the point, was like sort of a unity message, that like we're all kind of born of like EOSIO.
Didn't you do a contest one time with like there were hidden, I don't know, logos or something inside one of your? That was really fun. And one of them, there was one thing that no one could find. I think Adriana found it. I can't remember. That would be.
That was like a collaboration, I think, with EOS Detroit and Cypherglass, and it was like a contest. It was like this Frankenstein thing, and we hid a bunch of basically logos in there. But it reminded me of like highlights. You remember those magazines? There was always that one page where you had to go in and like find all the hidden shit. But like anything like that is like totally, yeah, like you would say, like evergreen. Like you might come across all this stuff in 5 years and it still has relevance.
So, would you see immutable realms? Like if the tier 1 or tier 2 are successful, and you're able to attract a crew of different creatives to come in and contribute to this zine, and I guess kind of act as a creative director and artist in pulling this all together. What do you see for like the next like what would next season look like, I guess, if you're successful? And then also, is there any tie-in with NFTs that you see besides just the shareable, document?
Yeah. So yeah, that if this was successful, then I would certainly be looking to do another round. Like, it'd be neat to do these like biannually or, whatever. I mean, assuming they go well, I'm happy to just keep doing them because like this is what I love to do. Like that's sort of been my ethos for the last like 5 years of my life is like if I don't have fun doing it, I don't even pursue it. So there's that, and then yeah, I was even. I mean, they wouldn't be NFTs really that would be sold. They'd have to be giveaway to still qualify as a public good. But maybe an opportunity. I was even thinking about doing some sort of between this round that's live now, maybe doing some sort of NFT that's not. It's not going to be for sale or anything, but maybe like claimed as just sort of an ad to get the word out and to see how people respond to that kind of art circulating on the chain. But yeah, there's definitely, I mean, NFTs are like the last few years of my life. I mean, like working with facings for the last year, like, I know this shit like the back of my hand now. So, but yeah, definitely, all kinds of expressions. And actually one last thing I'll note too, is like my intentions with the $25,000 tier, like milestone. I do actually want to get these printed physically also. So it would be digital and shareable, of course, but I would actually like to get like thousands of these things printed and, dump them in relevant places in certain cities. And, I mean, I remember visiting Toronto, and Toronto was like a big tech or a big hub for like blockchain and, obviously Minneapolis because I live here, but I'd love to get some of these out to like, maybe we could find like delegates across like some of the cities across the world that would be receptive to grabbing these. And if we even do some translation with like the EOSB's team, it'd be great to get some Chinese versions and ship a bunch there, and Korean versions, ship a bunch there, and Russian versions and ship a bunch there.
Yeah, I suppose with the file being open source in that language, people can just print them wherever they are and distribute them kind of grassroots style. And then
Yep.
The content though would be like pretty much open source or Creative Commons license, right? So so theoretically, could different people, different teams take any of the artwork and remix it and use it for their own, like in their own publications or in their own promotions and stuff? How would that work?
I personally am totally good with that. Like as far as like I'm concerned, the artwork is just contributing to the overall ecosystem. So yeah, if it wants, if stickers or what, I don't care. Just some of those pieces of art could be used for stickers or whatever, like memes or anything. Ideally, probably not like taking them to make money off them, because that kind of undermines the original point of the project. But as far as just using for public goodwill, I think that's great. I'd love to see it get used that way.
Cool.
All right. Excellent stuff. Thanks for sharing, Lars.
Thanks for having me. And one last thing I wanted to just say is like, man, you guys have done such a great job on this platform. While Felix was doing his pitch, I was like starting to, do like contribute to a few, projects that I was coming across on here. And it's seriously really slick. Like coming from a guy that just spent like 30 minutes trying to just get my microphone to work, I cannot believe the integration with like the wallet and like the sign in and just the overall platform. I know how hard these kind of websites are to build just from like working with Facing for the last like year and a half. But kudos to everybody. Yeah, if this is something you think would be a great value add to the community, please stop by and support a little bit. Obviously, even with the quadratic funding, man, like a single token goes a long way. So thanks again for having me.
Hey, thanks for the great feedback, Lars. Love your pitch. One of my favorite ones. I was hoping to see get funded last season, so I'm happy to see you came back this season. And yeah, on the wallet support thing, that's definitely something our team spent a lot of time working on, trying to make as smooth as possible. And yeah, we're really looking forward to what comes out of the Wallet Plus working group to make that easier for developers to provide those smooth experiences on all of the applications on EOS.
Right. Well, thanks again.
Join Lars. See you later.
Yeah.
All right. Another topic that I wanted to mention today was the new article published by the ENF just earlier today regarding transaction lifecycle features on EOS and how the ENF Foundation enlisted OCI to implement this. I'll be honest, I've not had a chance to read this article yet, so I'm wondering if Zack or Yves could give us a quick rundown on what this is all about. Or perhaps Matthew.
If it's about the feature and its value, I think Matthew, as an author of the API Plus blue paper, I could speak to the OCI side a little bit. But as far as the actual functionality and why it's needed, I think someone from the API Plus team, if they're on the call, would be good.
Yeah, certainly. This is Matthew here. We can talk about it. So it's interesting, just before this call, as the Pomelo team, we were having discussion about, how do we make these transactions reliable and make that user experience great in the Pomelo team? And it's like, well, we need this API to do X, Y, Z. And like my answer was, what the OCI team is working on as part of Mandel 3.1 will help with this problem. So the features that are listed in the API Plus blue paper around transaction lifecycle have, real implications for developers, ease of use of building great applications. And, at the moment, you have to do a lot of workarounds to do some very simple things that should be available and are available in other blockchain tech stacks. So this announcement today is, really affirming that we have the best developers in the EOSIO system available to work on the features that are actually needed by application developers. So OCI has built a lot of the blockchain tech stack that we use today, and it's great. They're here, they understand what's been done, they understand what's needed, and they're building it. So that's my quick take on it.
Awesome. Thanks for that quick explanation, Matthew.
If anybody has more questions, wants more details, happy to answer. But this is like the best news to have the best developers available working on the best blockchain system tech stack there is. So I couldn't be more excited. I tweeted out this as soon as I saw the announcement, I tweeted out this morning, like, awesome. Everything is awesome. This is great. So it's like, when? That's always the next question, right? When do we have it? So I know they're actively working on it. We had a discussion this morning on, just tuning the specification that was agreed to. The OCI team came back and said, well, dear Matthew, we think the way the API Plus team outlined this could use some improvements, and here's what we suggest. So that's awesome, right? So they're not just, here's a list of things to implement, and they just go off and do it. No, they come back and they understand what's needed and suggest improvements too. So that's the kind of development team that you want to have. So I look forward to hopefully maybe giving them more work after this blue paper in the future. Who knows?
That's I think the so there's a lot of benefits to working with OCI. The first one is what you mentioned. They're the most experienced team in EOSIO. I was sharing a graphic in Telegram today of, if you look at the EOS code repo that Block One hosts, the top two names on there ranked by commits are two OCI developers that Block One contracted. We have the number two guy leading this feature. The other thing is capacity. So as we've talked about on previous calls, everyone in this ecosystem has been very busy. All of the builders and top talent in the ecosystem spent the last several months writing these blue papers, and then they're going to spend the next several years fulfilling the proposals outlined in them. So we can't scale talent fast enough, and OCI can scale with us. So as mentioned in the blog article, they are a team of over 200 engineers. And they, as our needs scale and our demands scale, obviously we want to give work to, as an ecosystem, every development team that's capable within EOSIO and EOS in particular. But it's going to take some time to grow that the developer ecosystem, and for teams like Greymass and EOS Nation to build their own team up and then train those developers up to be capable of building out some of these more advanced features. OCI could step right in for good reason. They're the first team to be funded to fulfill a proposal because they had the availability, they had the experience and skill set, and they can get started immediately. And I think you're right. I think they will be able to take on more features in the future. And the nice thing is, because they have such a large internal team, it's kind of like they have mentors within their own company. So it's always easier to kind of onboard a new EOSIO developer if you take them under your wing. And what I mean by that is, if you first start seeing EOS in the news now today, and you want to, and you're an engineer and you want to start building on EOSIO, it's going to take that person a lot longer if they're a lone wolf trying to teach themselves than if they are hired by a team like Greymass, hired by a team like EOS Nation, or we're already working for a company like OCI that has work on the table. It's a lot easier to onboard a new developer if you have a mentor to take you under your wing. And OCI kind of has that. They have a farm system of 200 engineers, and they can continuously hire if they needed more. But it's always going, the ramp up phase of training an engineer from being a good developer to a good EOSIO developer is going to be a lot faster whenever you have that kind of mentorship, especially within your own company. And I think the other thing we didn't, it was mentioned in the article, but they're like a top-notch company. If you look at some of the clients that they have just listed on their site, companies like Cisco, IBM, NASA, they work with a lot of very large multi-billion-dollar like national businesses. So they're as good as we're going to get within the EOS ecosystem, especially. I'm super stoked to see their output. And I believe the deliverable for this, I don't have the date in front of me. Maybe Ted, Jeff, or Yves could jump in, but I believe it's June.
Hopefully June.
What is the item you're talking about?
The transaction lifecycle that's already in motion. What's the deliverable time frame for it?
It's looking like early June. We're doing everything we can to pull that up, and then that would be the thing that hopefully allows us to move Mandel 3.1 into Jungle 4. But it's still a little bit moving because we're still ramping up some resources, and we just got a new vacation notice that kind of set us back a little bit. But we're targeting early June, and we're hoping to pull it in late May for that item.
I can support Zach's point. Have some on-the-ground experience working with the Objective guys when back in when we were transitioning from Voice being a Block One developed product to its own thing. So I got to work with a lot of great developers on the mobile side, but one in particular was Steve. He was part of the Objective team, and he was kind of the go-to guy for all the kind of the more the link between the deep iOS APIs and the blockchain and the EOS, the operation of the blockchain. He has a very deep understanding of the whole system as a whole, and every implication that any PR had. So he was kind of our go-to guy from the whole transition. And we of course wanted to bring him into to Voice, but he eventually ended up moving into what was then called the B1X project, which is obviously now bullish. And yeah, I have nothing but good feedback from the team. Super professional and very well knowledgeable, and yeah, they're I kind of just to add to your point, they're a great development team. I had some experience with them, so I really recommend their involvement, and I'm happy to see that they're now going to put their developer brains onto EOS. So that's super exciting.
Well, thanks for sharing, Matthew, Zack, Ted, Hernan. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on this topic. Pretty exciting. Okay, if there's not any more questions on that, I'd like to invite Phoenix onto the stage and maybe give us some update on the hackathon planning sessions that have been going on.
Before we change subjects, can we stick on Pomelo for just a minute?
Yes, we can.
Yes, public gooding is difficult. Daniel and I have been going back and forth over the last couple of days on a few of the items as to what constitutes a public good, and we're still, obviously everybody's still learning at this. So thank you very much, everybody, for submitting your information, completing the applications, and in working through the process of modifying your pitches and such. It really is valuable information as we grow. It's only season 2. As we grow into better defining what constitutes public goods and how we position this, etc., so that this initiative essentially grows with really strong foundations later on. And what I wanted to touch upon is kind of a discussion that was held earlier today in the Pomelo channel, is that at some point, some of the applications are rejected because they don't meet the current definition of public goods. And what I see happening right now is teams going back and making text modifications, but I'm and then essentially then meeting the definition of a public good based on what is written in the application. But I'm really not convinced that the team itself is going to be, or really there's a mindset change that is happening, or there's a culture change that's happening in terms of what is funding towards public goods. And what I want to add is that the ENF is going to be going through, as I mentioned last week, over a period of time, an auditing process of the teams that do go through the Pomelo seasons and that receive matching, so that we can better help and support the ecosystem going forward, not as an auditing to punish people, but very much as what else do people need in order to be successful after they receive funding, because funding is just one component of what we're trying to create here. But what I see that's still lacking, that's still missing, is that teams get rejected. They go and change some text in order to then meet the definition, but their mindset hasn't changed and the culture hasn't changed yet, whereby the funds that they would receive would still go to the same thing that they'd written prior to making those changes. And that's what I really want to avoid. And so this idea is that you really need to deploy the funds that you're getting on the public good, not simply fund your business and change words on a paper in order to access that funding. So the ENF, as we mentioned last week, has a grant framework that's pretty much in final stages, I would say in final beta stages. It's been open to a few people that reached out after last week, and we selected a few people that we'd already been working with to go through the process to better define it until we before making it public. So the GitHub was public last week, and we made it private afterwards because we figured that someone in here would likely write an article about it and kind of spoil the fun for everybody else. But we are currently working with people. And the idea is, I really want to keep the distinction between what Pomelo is, what Eden is, and what the grant framework would be. So the grant framework will allow for people to get funded for non-public goods. But I really want to ensure that Pomelo really creates a culture that the people that are seeking funding in Pomelo are seeing it for the public good side of thing, not just changing words on a paper to get access to funding for their business that's not necessarily public good, but writing the public good in order to get that funding. There will be funding available for non-public goods. I really want people to focus on the public good side of things for Pomelo. because this is quite new. We're still a very small community. A lot of the participants here in this call right now, we've got 50 people. A lot of you have applications in. How we define this right now and how we essentially police ourselves, or how we keep each other accountable within our own very small community right now, will make a significant impact on how this grows later on. So the foundations that we're creating here today are very, very important. At some point, we won't be as small, ideally, and we're not going to be in the same position that we are, where right now we can actually test the system and create the foundation so that we can grow from that. So it's really important. I want people to understand, don't just go and change the words on your application in order to meet the definition, but in the back end, you haven't changed your mindset and the funds are going to go towards your business growth. The business growth side of things can be taken care of in the grant framework. Really create that base in Pomelo so that the funds go towards the public good and what constitutes in public good. And that we're still learning together. So thank you very much, everybody, for submitting that and participating in this process and asking the questions, because we don't have all the answers yet. But what we are attempting to create is something that will last and will grow much bigger than what it currently is. And that's it.
Thanks, Yves, for sharing, because I think a lot of people in the community are trying to explain, there's a lot of great projects out there that are submitting grants, but they don't really qualify it as a public good. So it's kind of also an effort for the community-wide, right? People are trying to explain what is a public good, what is non-excludable. So it's definitely a shift. But so far, we've had a lot of really good applications submit for Pomelo. And the bar is definitely raised for season 2. So, but a lot of education on what is a public good, and believing that you are truly building a public good, not just like you were saying, the words on just changing the words. So.
Yeah, I joined a Gitcoin Twitter Spaces. What was it? Maybe 3 weeks ago or so, and the culture that was on the call is what we're attempting to create here. The funding of public goods creates a particular mindset that I believe at this point we still don't have in this community. People are, and I hear you, people are still trying to access funding because they have not been able to access funding for a very long time. We'll get there. It's important to create these solid foundations, and Pomelo is that place for public goods. And once we have that culture set within Pomelo, and if I'd invite you to go look at the Gitcoin and what they've created, it is extremely powerful. There will be a venue for non-public good funding. There will be venue for funding for your business. Helios is doing part of that as well. Eden is a key component to that as well. So please keep the Pomelo for the public good side of things. And I really invite you to go look at Gitcoin, the culture that's been created from within, Gitcoin itself is really, really cool to see. All right, last thing, and I'll shut up. I forgot to mention it. The Pomelo and Eden, what we're building essentially is reputation systems. And within Pomelo, you're going to create a trust profile or a reputation profile, right, over a period of time. So keep in mind that what you are doing today will be quite significant later on as the matching pools grow, as the number of external backers grow, as the number of funds become available for public goods. Your reputation and your reputation profile, your trust score that you're building from day one is going to be quite impactful in the future. So don't try and walk the thin line and screw the system at this point, especially people that are known right now, which is all of you and pretty much everybody who's participating. You're going to be shooting yourself in the foot for later. It's not worthwhile. You have an opportunity to be a model right now and to showcase what can be, leverage that, and it will be a much better approach down the line, and you're going to be opening yourself doors down the line way more than trying to screw the system of a couple of $1,000s today.
Oh.
That's a new sound bit.
That's right. Cool. Thanks for that, Yves. And I know, from talking with Daniel a little bit, he mentioned that he saw a significant improvement in the quality of the grants that have come in from season 1 to season 2, which does show that the community is evolving and growing and getting better at this. Yeah, I'm sure we'll keep growing and evolving over the next seasons as well.
Yeah, and even from one draft to the next, now that we have this new action required status, we get a grant come in, not quite a public good. We send them an email with some educational content on what a public good is, and they come back with actually, oh wow, now they got it. So yeah, we're seeing that slow evolution happening slowly but surely, and I think we'll keep getting better around and around. And like you said, we're still learning ourselves. So if you guys see, something that gets approved that maybe you disagree should qualify as a public good, or vice versa, we've declined something that you think should be a public good, let us know. That all of that will help feed our, internal algorithm that we're fine tuning season over season.
Speaking of trust, has Luca's port been integrated with Pomelo yet?
It has indeed. You can find that if you look at your profile. There's a trust bonus tab. You can add a trust bonus with port. We're also supporting. You can link multiple different social providers to boost your trust bonus as well.
Is there a handy link for some literature on port, or why is that an interesting aspect of Pomelo?
Check out, I think a good place is there's a grant on port.
Yeah, from season 1, or is it
returning? And also they've returned in season 2.
Okay.
So I would check out that grant. I believe there's some links to information there as well.
Because I know it adds to the trust bonus, but there really hasn't been anyone talking about it. I thought it was kind of interesting. Yeah, I see somebody's linking it now. But I found it pretty interesting, especially because it seems in the future could go far beyond just Pomelo login.
Yeah, and we're actually I've been reviewing lots of grants, and I've seen maybe 2 or 3 actually mentioned in their grants that they're planning on integrating port into their products as well.
Does the trust bonuses, do they go retroactive if I made donations today and then I do port in a week? Would only my future contributions have a multiplier, or would it apply for all of my contributions in season 2?
It would apply to all of your contributions in season 2. Yeah, so as long as you still have your trust bonus at the time of when we're calculating the final matching amount, it'll be applied across all of your donations.
Yeah, there's going to be an adjustment. So at the end of the season, we're gonna sort of recompute everybody's social trust bonus and sort of do a recomputation. So maybe if you do donate today and then you add port next week, the number, like your contribution might still have your previous social bonus, but we're going to be re-updating the social scores with the latest update, just because it's kind of hard to revert back donations from a week ago and keep maintaining a live database. But at the end, when the round is completed, then we can kind of recompute everything back again and use the latest. So you can submit port in 3 days, 5 days, and it should be fine. Does that answer your question there, Zack?
Yep.
Perfect. And this is this is fairly new to us, so I think the port team has been really engaging. They've been, we've been poking at them and saying, a lot of server and backend communication. So it's still in early stages for both Pomelo implementing port and port hosting it as a service as well. But I do agree with Joe that it can go beyond just a social trust bonus for Pomelo. and I think it can go beyond, just within Pomelo. Pomelo is simply just one implementation of how port is used. And I think there's definitely some promising future with port, and Pomelo being the first customer of it.
Yeah, for more information on port, tune in next week in the Fireside chat. We'll have Luca on, and he's going to be sharing more information about his port grant next week.
And then for those who are in China, we've also included Weibo. So if anybody has a Weibo account, you can also get a social bonus for Weibo or a social login with Weibo. The reason I mention this is we don't have a lot of feedback from users that have Weibo accounts, because you need a Chinese phone number. So if anybody wants to try out the new social login with Weibo, feel free to do so and give us some feedback. Well, I can keep going. But the reason that we added Weibo, again, a Chinese social provider, was because of the sort of not every Chinese users have GitHub or Gmail or these sort of Western social providing platforms. So we want to include as much Eastern login platforms so that it's equal for the trust bonus. We are going to try to equal them out and make sure that there's an equal social trust bonus available for both East and West type of communities. And so yeah, but they're much more difficult to implement. So if ever, if anybody developers have a good idea on how to implement some of these Chinese social providers, give us some heads up. But it's been quite challenging implementing these social providers. So the next one that we're working on is Baidu, but WeChat is even harder, surprisingly. There you go. Now we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, we can always get back to Pomelo with these topics later on. If anyone has any questions, of course, you can always feel free to just jump in and ask them. For now, I'll invite my second attempt at inviting Phoenix onto the stage. Is he still with us? I think so.
Yeah. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll try to keep things as concise as possible, just out of respect for everybody's time. But this is what I want to do today, is provide the community an update on efforts to develop our hackathon. As everybody knows, it's been several years since EOS has actually had a hackathon of any type, with incentives or prizes that would, I think, garner the interest and encourage the participation we know is possible, not just for developing concepts and ideas for public goods, but also just general commercially viable products and services that could be built on the platform. And hearkening back to the days of Ethereum and consensus, and especially the early days, we do know, just based on that history, the pipeline that was developed and support from consensus led to the growth and the adoption of Ethereum. So we know, I think, hopefully we all can agree on the benefit and power of just having a framework and occasional hackathons for a network like EOS. So hackathons obviously are one method that's used to generate those ideas that are not only worthy of, say, innovation for a public good, but worthy for potential commercial investments. And what we were looking at right now was trying to identify if we could host a hackathon for EOS. We know that the prior hackathons facilitated through Block 1 did offer some opportunities for teams to build on EOS or EOSIO, but I think there seemed to be a lack of follow through and criteria, which led to some could argue some misalignment of goals. So we saw, for example, in the earlier hackathons, there were prizes given, but essentially after those prizes were given to the top teams, we didn't really see a continued development or evolution of those concepts or services that had been identified. And so one of the things we were looking at with say unveiling a new hackathon for EOS is how we might be able to encourage top teams to not only say receive a top prize for participating in the hackathon and say having the best idea, but how can we allow them to continue to build on their ideas and hopefully provide a pathway for a more of a viable product that the community could use, or that may be eligible for additional, venture capitalist investment. So as it stands right now, as you guys know, EOS doesn't have a venture arm nor a capital financial war chest like Consensus. So on a smaller scale, such investments done within EOS would probably need to be taken more carefully. So one of the benefits with a hackathon is it does perhaps mitigate the risk in selecting or finding the talent in teams with the best ideas and bootstrapping those ideas to develop those products and services. And so with that, we've started the path of coming up with a proposal or an approach that we'd like to get some additional feedback and participation on. I posted in the stream chat a link to the Google Docs of the drafted proposal as it stands today, worthy of receiving additional comments and feedback from the community, because it's not just obviously an individual person that would lead these efforts. I think it's a community effort that needs to be made. And we've started this process or effort started about, several weeks ago, as of today, evaluating not only potential platforms that could be used for developing this hackathon. That included interviewing the vendors, interviewing 3 to 4 vendors, identifying the pricing, the trade-offs with the hackathon platforms and what the vendors could offer our community, but also thinking of the different types of roles that are required to put on a hackathon, not just project managers, but other types of key roles we would have, such as a committee to evaluate projects and score them. We have also technical mentors that hopefully would volunteer. Similarly, we would probably have a need to have some workshops that cover general technical topics and business development topics, right? So as you go through the proposal that I've linked, I've attempted to lay out the work breakdown structure or the roles that I think would be appropriate for facilitating this event, and perhaps those on the call today, if there's an interest, would appreciate some way to gauge that interest to help support this project. And unlike the prior hackathons that were done for some other platforms, the approach that's being proposed for this particular hackathon, at least as it's written on paper today, is more of an ideation approach, where we open this hackathon to all teams within EOSIO to develop ideas and concepts that could be pitched to the community and the judges. We do recognize the challenges with, I think, the quantity of talent, technical talent within EOS to develop applications. And we do know, or I do know personally from participating in hackathons in San Francisco and elsewhere, that 2 days is really, 2 to 3 days is really not sufficient to, I would say, develop a demo of a product or service that would be built. So taking a step back from that, this proposal entails more of a longer term hackathon, where it would be in the duration of a 6 to 8 week time frame to allow teams to actually develop and refine their ideas, work on their pitches, possibly develop some type of a demo. Not necessarily required, because again, we want to reduce the barriers to entry for all teams that are interested in participating in this. Once the pitches are made, with submission of a video and live community Q&A, judges would make apply scoring and award the top teams with actual prize funding. So at this point, some of the questions that have come up are, in terms of the funding, what do we think is a reasonable amount, given a couple potential options to provide incentives for teams not only within EOS, EOSIO, but the broader, I think, developer community. When we step back and we look at what opportunities we have to garner interest within EOS, EOSIO, there are a number of universities, obviously, a number of other general developer communities that may have just not been tapped to date. But obviously we want to have a value that does encourage people to participate. If we go with the more no strings attached, that prize pool might be obviously assigned at a lower amount. Whereas if we go with a milestone-based incentive structure, there could be an option to award top teams with the best ideas, the best pitch and demo, a no strings attached prize, but then offer those teams some type of a additional incentive structure to continue to develop their idea and bring that project essentially from maybe a demo up to a minimum viable product of some kind, up to commercial viability. So one of the ideas here is to maybe offer a 1-year type incentive structure with resources and funding to allow them to do that. So that's one of the questions is, feedback on prize or incentive structures for EOS hackathons. And I think the other major piece here is, interest from the broader community that's on this call, where we can identify interest to support this hackathon, because we have a number of roles that have been identified. And thus far, our participation in terms of our working group meetings hasn't been the greatest. So if we're really serious about organizing this hackathon, we're likely going to need to, find or identify talent or resources to actually execute this with the roles required. So with that being said, kind of open it up to the community, specifically, hopefully, on those two topics. I don't know if folks have anything to add on those. Was prize pools and incentives for hackathons, given the challenges we have in bootstrapping this effort. Yeah, there's more roles and responsibilities, and I've listed those various roles within the proposal. So I'll open it up to the community with that said. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to provide an update.
Hey, Phoenix. Hopefully it's working. Yeah, so it's Chris from Helios. So I love what you're doing. Been catching up with your proposals so far, which is extremely well done, by the way, like really, really well done. So I think I'm gonna keep touching base with you, and we can talk offline about how Helios can deliberately find a way to support through some sort of mentorship, or not necessarily cash prizes, but certainly we can do incubator type of work. We've got our incubator program. We could do a special incubator, like a prize for the top hackathon winners can then have a special series that could help them work on their business plan and go to market strategy that we've been doing with our incubator series anyway. And then perhaps we could even do some recorded content in advance of the final pitches from the projects that they can maybe use to help refine their pitch and create some content that might be usable for ongoing hackathons as well. But yeah, I love what you're doing, and definitely I'll be in touch to find ways to support what you're trying to make happen.
Thank
you. That's great. There's some actual fire in this fireside chat. I was just thinking of saying what Chris said on his behalf, but I'm glad Chris chimed in and said that Helios seems like kind of the bird in the hand right now as far as incubation goes, or taking that from congratulations, you won a hackathon, or you got first, second, third, whatever, and here's your prize pool, see you later, hope it works out. I feel like Helios could potentially, at least early on when we're trying to bootstrap this whole idea, they might be able to offer some really valuable component to what goes in to facilitating a project beyond just the money or winning a prize. So anyways, just wanted to say that's awesome. I'm super glad to hear that Chris chimed in with that.
Yeah, same. And also just wanted to mention that, one of the pieces of criteria that could be used in evaluating these projects is not only the business viability, but also the, technical competency and technical viability. So, when we talk about technical competency, the actual team use EOSIO software to develop, say, a demo that is demonstrated to the community. And when we say, technical viability, do we think it's viable to deploy it on EOSIO? And is there a benefit to doing that over, say, a traditional solution? Those incorporated into the criteria would then allow and reward teams that essentially have not only a solid business plan, but also the technical competency, so that if there is, say, additional phase 2 framework for bootstrapping those projects, and additional incentives are given, there's a higher chance for success. What we did see, and what I've seen in some other hackathons, is again that follow through. Once the hackathon is completed, there's either just basically a walk away with the money, with no additional benefits translated from that event, or just a lack of ability to actually execute the subsequent development of the product or service. So that's one of the big things that, with the effort that we've put together thus far, is we're trying to avoid in a proposal. So if anybody has ideas on maybe how to best address that beyond what's been discussed, or an alternative, I'm certainly open to hear from the community what might be worth considering. just add our schedule wise, I think we're looking at with the vendor that's proposed, it's like about a 4 to 6 week process from an approval. So just talking through the next steps. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts to refine in terms of, say, a potential prize pool and partnerships for resources to actually kick off a hackathon for EOS. Then even outside of that, we've been able to identify a vendor that can help us with this potentially take high. There were other vendors that were also interviewed and documented. But, all of them appear to be from an approval process, about 4 to 6 weeks from the approval to say get a launch page, get our registration page going, and then we've thought about allocating about 6 to 8 weeks to allow participants to actually register, find teams, resource their teams, and then have some type of a kickoff event, and then 6 to 8 weeks from that period. So when you look at an overall from approval to start of hackathon, again you're looking at probably more of that 3 to 4 month process. Just given the amount of window for registration and time to actually develop the platform, and then additional 6 to 8 weeks from that period of time to actually carry out the hackathon. That's important to note just because of timeframes. I know there's a lot of other moving parts within EOS that seems to position us around the July timeframe. Assuming we have a couple more weeks of refinement of this idea, we would be looking at a July timeframe for a kickoff, actually starting the hackathon. And you can find those types of details and preliminary budget in the actual document that's been shared. So.
And for those who want to join, the conversation is mostly happening in this Discord channel or in this Discord server, I mean.
Yeah, there's a hackathon hashtag hackathon-planning. It's in what's the section called? It's in the working groups, ENF working groups category.
Beautiful. And the weekly meetings are when again?
They are on Tuesdays at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. And even outside of the working meetings, I would suggest if folks have feedback or comments, there are probably two easy ways to convey your thoughts. One would simply be to add the comments to the document that was shared today. So that's an option. And the second one is simply to provide your comments within the hackathon planning channel, the sub channel within Discord, so that is not contingent on your participation in the weekly meeting, but it will be incorporated and discussed with the folks that do show up. So I would highly encourage everybody who has an interest in doing that to participate. And again, it's not something that can happen with I think the quantity of participation we have to date. So we are hoping to get some additional support from the community, folks to show up. If you think this is important, if you value the development of a pipeline for commercially viable products and services organically, you need a hackathon to do that. So if you value that, I would suggest participation in whatever you can do to support that effort. So with that, thanks so much for your time.
Excellent. Thanks for your time and thanks for sharing. Hopefully we got more people that show up to the meeting next week. All right, at this time, I guess we can open it up to community questions and comments and new topics and whatever it is you want to talk about. Let's hear it. Or I could just play all my new sound effects that I have.
I'm gonna get a lead up. Yevhen, what are you working on today? What are you working on? I want to know what you're working on for NFT analytics and attribute. Are you here? I think he's no.
Yevhen is here.
Oh, there we go.
You asked me?
Yeah, well, I want to see. I want to hear all about your cool things that you're working on, NFT related.
So I just thought I worked on some kind of searching tool for Atomic Hub, which can be combined with NFT related games. For now, I started with Dungeon Master, and now you can search for NFTs with specific hidden attributes such as mining weight, some materials power, using tools that I deployed at last week. And I continue to work with it, and future maybe add more application to it to show which one, if you, for example, if you got some kind of NFTs in your inventory, then you may know where you can use it, and the more you will have, the more good ways to find something specific. So that's it.
Great. No, thanks for sharing. There's a lot of hidden information with NFTs, us included, with our diamond fragments, and we have to explain and then define all these sort of information. And Dungeon Master was the same. They've got these hidden mining weight, which is an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. So you make that clear and kind of open up the those hidden attributes with NFTs. So it looks awesome. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. I also today sent a grant proposal for next season. It's currently on review. So let's see.
You're not too late for this season. We'll review it as quickly as we can, and yeah, if we get approved, you'll still be eligible to participate in season 2.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to vouch in for Mr. Yevhen here. So just a good work for Yevhen. He's been helping us tremendously at the EOS Starter team. He's been doing all the front end that you will hopefully see very soon for the bakery game and the NFTs. So he's been really he's been also a pleasure to work with, and it's worth mentioning that Yevhen is now in Ukraine, so he's also been affected heavily by the war that we've seen. So he's hanging out between the shelter and the dev environments. So truly a good trooper. And I don't know if we have some time, Yevhen, but can you also tell us a bit about the efforts that you guys are doing with the kind of the cyber war front on Ukraine, or do you want to stay off that topic?
I do not much. As every developer in Ukraine, we may help only with some DDoS stuff, and that's all. That's not very that's not very complicated to do so. And my main job for this situation, Ukraine, as said our president, we have to do what we did before the situation. For me, it's working and work on economics. Thank you.
And collect some NFTs.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I for one support you, Yevhen, and I'm very sure that we as a community, we're all going to support you and you guys all through this. Slava Ukraine.
There's another NFT project I want to mention. It's the 3D object one. So I think it was from JeanC. Do you want to talk about your 3D object standard? One of the things is we, on our Pomelo team, we've been doing 3D objects, but we don't have a way to display them in Atomic Hub in 3D. So maybe, JeanC, you'd want to explain your pitch and what you're going to be doing?
Hey, yeah, that should be good. I mean, I can start off by giving a quick update on my first season's project, which I'm still finalizing the details, but kind of leads into this one. But yeah, so my first project was to do an energy analysis of the EOS blockchain, which was kind of an interesting simulation to run. The results are in. I'm just kind of finalizing the conclusion. But basically, as part of this work, I created a geometry, an energy model, and it's a 3D, it's a GBXML file, so it contains all the data for the simulation. So that's kind of out there, and it's on my grant page, so you can kind of check it out, play with it. Kind of the goal was just to provide resources and files and file formats, so that as a public good. But anyway, so I'm kind of wrapping that first season's pitch up, but that same building, the same building geometry, I exported it to a GLB file, and that GLB file, or GLTF, is that's the kind of format that a lot of the main blockchains, I think Ethereum's using it, and like Mozilla Spaces, like Augmented Worlds, are using GLB files. And so that's kind of, like went into that to explore, see what else we can do with those types of files. Seems to be like the industry standard. But part of my season 2 pitch will be to dive deep into the file formats, the 3D file formats for NFTs specifically, and then just kind of explore really the ins and outs of that, like how much can we maximize out of it? Like we have geometry, we have shape, we have textures. I'm not sure exactly what else or kind of where the pitfalls are, but basically these file formats can be scripted in from developers, and my goal from this is to hopefully shed some light on this concept and share resources with developers, so that they can implement this standard into their platforms. For example, like Atomic Hub could implement the GLB standard, and then all developers or artists can start producing 3D geometry as NFTs, which I think is going to be super cool. So I think Stefan just posted on the chat. That's kind of the image I produced. So that building is like the data center that I produced. So it's kind of a dumb square object at this point, but my first project, the first article is that GBXML file contains all the inherent data in that building, but that's kind of what I see the relationship between 3D objects. There's every file format is special and unique and has its application, and I think that's where I'm going to focus really on season 2, is just really how is this going to work in the EOS ecosystem specifically. But it'll come from just doing a round of research around this topic, and hopefully it helps the community, and hopefully I can my goal is to hopefully get Atomic Hub or platforms like that to adopt this standard, and then I think that'll be good for everyone. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or suggestions or whatever, feel free to let me know.
No, so that's good. So your season 1 energy report is a building simulation in 3D, right? So you simulated the energy consumption as a data center, and then I dove you into the 3D NFT rabbit hole. So it's a standard progression of life. You start with an energy report, and then you get into NFT building, NFT 3D objects. So sounds like a normal path for crypto.
Yeah. Well, like even like I do energy modeling for buildings, like real buildings, but this building is not necessarily a real one. It's it's the aggregation of my assumption of how many CPU cores are in the EOS network, and that gave me about 1,000 servers, and I kind of put those servers on racks, and then I lined up the racks, and that gave me the size of such building, and then I kind of built around that concept. So it's really I was just trying to assume as accurately as possible how much energy would use in EOS, and I mean, if you want to I'll probably post it this week or early next week, but I mean, it's very, in my opinion, it's very energy efficient. I'm not comparing to Bitcoin or Ethereum, because that's another more complicated project. But for what I'm seeing, like it's quite a lean and efficient technology, and it's just all that heat needs to be cooled, and so I'll just dive into the details of how it would work. But I think the outcome is quite positive.
Great, looking forward to it, and also looking forward to seeing our diamond pomelos in 3D at one point. Steph, hint, hint. Dot gems. All the NFT artists.
Everything's going to be 3D from now on, so gotta keep
We're going to
up.
up the bar. I think EOS is going to up the bar in the 3D art generation. So maybe something for season 3 we'll implement.
Yeah,
Let's do it. Let's get it.
Gotta crack the rip on our artists. Gotta increase the bar. Are they listening? Yana? Shermana? No? Yeah. Yana's here. No, I think the inspiration of 3D is actually from Yana. So you've been doing some really awesome work, and I think you were a part of the 3D rendering for the Diamond Pomelo. So it looks amazing. Mm.
Yeah. Our diamond pomelos, they look 3D. They were created in 3D, but really they're a 2D image that's, rotating the 3D on a 2D plane. So with this new 3D model, I could actually myself choose to, what angle I want to look at this object at and place it in a 3D space and walk around it. And it's, instead of it being a flat image of a 3D, it's actually 3D.
Yeah, it'd be so cool to see those diamonds in 3D.
Correct. Yeah. Should be. And then Yana, I think that would be good to get your feedback too, right? As being an artist, the 3D rendering artist, to get feedback from the artist side and Atomic Hub, and see how it all interacts. I think that would be a nice learning discovery for that.
Yeah, very interesting. Thanks for sharing your pitch, Jack. For others who may be listening in on YouTube or later on or right now in the chat, we do have a Pomelo Season 2 pitch session sign-up form. So I'm going to share that right now in the stream chat. So, you know, as you guys know, we're hosting pitch sessions here on the Fireside every week. We kind of focus on 2 at the start of the Firesides. We aim for about 5-minute description and 10-minute Q&A. Of course, during the open mic session here at the end of the Firesides, we welcome people if they want to talk about their own grant or someone else's grant. That's totally fine. But Jen and Rios is also hosting Pomelo pitch sessions, and our team in Asia is also hosting some 10-cent meeting Pomelo pitch sessions on WeChat. So if you fill out this form, you can apply to whatever pitch session you want, and yeah, and get some more exposure for your grant. And I guess what else here do we have as topics? The Eden election is coming up shortly. So not this Saturday, but next Saturday on the 9th of April. Eden election, the next Eden election is coming up. Remember to sign up if you have not yet done so. I'm going to be posting, just posted the link in the stream chat as well for you to sign up to the Eden election. The timeline for the election has been posted. So in terms of Eastern time zones, community room is going to open at 8 a.m. Then there's going to be the opening ceremony at 8:30, and the election officially begins at 9 a.m. And, you know, round 1 is 1 hour, and then 10 a.m. round 2 begins, etc., until we get to 1 p.m. where the head chief is selected through sortition. So if you've been wondering when that is, it's coming up in about 10 days. And yeah, sign up and make your presence known to the community.
Just and on the sign up, so people are aware, you got to sign up 24 hours in advance. So make sure by April 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern, you've opted in on the site.
There you go. Good jumping in there, Chris. And it is worth noting that the donations on Pomelo are still going to be open as well at that time. So there's some potential for some synergies going on there with Eden and Pomelo. All right, we're wrapping up. We're coming up close on the 2 hours here. So maybe if there's maybe 1 or 2 more comments from the community, jump in, share your thoughts, and if not, we'll wrap it up shortly here.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, no, go for it.
If I may, I have a question about the standardizations for NFTs. And so this is Jay Taylor, and I've been participating in the Fractally startup project. And it's my understanding that one of the concepts of Fractally is to be able to mint tokens for each fractal group. And that raises questions about tokens as an NFT for purposes of being able to engage in DeFi using tokens on the mainnet potentially. And so it's a very general question that I have. I've tried to track a little bit with the different blue papers, and I'm not sure where the standardization of tokens as far as upgrading them for purposes of allowing almost an on-net exchange ability of tokens in the form of issuing, I guess what we would call is just an NFT token for purposes of exchange trading on chain, if that makes sense. And could you, just as an open question to the group, is there kind of a roadmap maybe that came through the Core Plus, or maybe it's API Plus, as far as upgrading mainnet so that there's an ease of use concerning the minting of tokens and then exchange trading of tokens? Thanks.
I don't believe there's any requirement for any upgrading. I think actually what Dan Lamer was proposing was a downgrading. So it was using the atomic, like sort of taking NFTs from atomic standard and then removing metadata so that it's a lighter version of an NFT. And at the moment, right now, for ease of use, the Atomic Hub exchange or marketplace is very, very efficient and very good at exchanging NFTs. So you can go look at the Atomic Hub. And for developers, there's the Atomic API, which is hosted by multiple different infrastructure providers. So I don't think there's anything in the works to upgrade anything NFT related. And as for Fractally, it was just to build their own NFT standard with a lower RAM requirement. But there's no improvement. It's just a RAM efficiency.
And so I think that would raise the question if, and I'm non-technical, however, if there are two chains that are running in parallel, then wouldn't it require, obviously you could mint an NFT using a chain, but what if there was, as I understand it, we're in the process of coordinating between chains to allow this type of facility that you just described. And so how would that, for example, be available on the mainnet?
Which two chains are you specifying? Because it's right now Atomic asset is on EOS. So which two chains are you referring?
And so there's no need for a standardization between the chains?
But which two chains? I mean, I'm confused on the two chain part.
Well, for example, if I wanted to start up a fractal group using the Fractally project concept, would I have to pick and choose between the chains that are available? And how would if I wanted to create a fractal group that was going to mint tokens, how would you choose, for example, of how to accomplish that goal of being able to mint a token?
Yeah, I think that question is probably outside of even a Fractally or concept. It would be the same as if you would pick Ethereum or Binance Chain or EOS or Wax. You would have all of those same problems because you're on a different network. So there's a lot of communication breakdown. But if Fractally, let's say, was deployed on EOS, your tokens, your NFTs would all be on EOS. You wouldn't have to have this multi-chain effort. And if Fractally was designed or built with a multi-chain idea or concept, then Fractally would have to support multiple chains. But that's more of a design for Fractally and not so much an NFT. That answers the question.
So, but I mean, it seems to me that you would, if you're going to mint tokens, that you would have to pick one chain versus the other. And that's why I tried to frame it in the sense of, is there a standardized mechanism to use the EOS chain to mint token without having to select one of our chains versus another EOS chain?
I think we're going a bit too off topic for the Fireside chat at this point.
I think you're asking two different questions, Jay. I think one is where is Fractally gonna run, and that question is pretty much as I see it. Fractally is on the application layer, so it could run as a governance layer in any network. So depending on where Fractally is going to be implemented, that's the base layer of whether the token is going to be minted. If there is a process through which you can mint EOS tokens directly, right now there's not kind of a website that you go to and mint your token, but you can always deploy the EOSIO token contract that you can specify there, the symbol, the supply, all those details, but it still has to be kind of done manually if that was I think that was the other part of your question. If that answers to what you were asking.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that we're working on the API plus Lifecycle, and so it seems as though the ability to mint tokens would be fundamental at the stage where we're working on, you know, whether we call it downgrading or upgrading. I would call it standards based. And so if we have a contract, if we have a smart contract that we want to use to be able to enhance the community, then we would focus on, do we have a standards-based smart contract from which we can either expand chains or work or add a new layer of social groups that want to tokenize and be able to not only have an EOS token, but to be able to mint tokens, including what I would call as an NFT token that could be used for specific purposes such as DeFi. And so I think my question is, and maybe because I'm not technical enough, I can't articulate it well. And I apologize for all the time I'm using, and I don't want to go off topic. I just wanted to ask a question. Is there a particular blue paper where the standards of tokens is being thoughtfully mapped out for the future of the EOS network so that I can attempt to track it? Thank you for the time, though.
I'll jump in and say that no, there is no paper that focused on that specifically. There is a token contract standard that exists right now that could use improvements, but it was not an incredibly high priority. And I do think that the terminology you're using is causing some confusion. Tokens by definition are not NFT. Dan's proposal kind of mixed those things together in a way that you transfer ownership of a token using an NFT, but that is as far as it goes. And otherwise, the token itself has nothing to do with NFT. I don't know if that helps explain that part a little bit more either.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. And you know, non-fungible token, you could call almost any transaction, you know, that's unique, tokenized non-fungible token, but it's more of a root question as to how do I participate in tracking this in our existing framework of all the blue papers? Which group would you point me to? Which working group?
Probably Core, since they were the ones that dealt with smart contracts mostly. But there was, I don't believe, any mention of upgrades to the token contract within the Core blue paper, which could be suggested, I guess. But that group at this point is, I mean, they're not adding things. There's a community phase where the community can suggest things to be added, but I think the Core Plus one may be over at this point, at least for the thing the ENF was running.
Yeah, the submission period is over for all of them except for Wallet Plus, and that one ends on Saturday.
Regarding the Core Plus Blue Paper, we're having our Kahoot quiz this Friday on the Core Plus Blue Paper. So if you've read it, you know, join us. If you haven't read it and you want to learn a bit about it, join us. It's a great way to learn. We go through a few questions. There's some EOS prizes available for people who show up. So yeah, you can either come flex your knowledge and climb that leaderboard, or just join us, have some fun, and learn about the Core Plus Blue Paper. So that's happening on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern.
That was quite the segue and plug. I applaud you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree. That was excellent. And thanks, guys, for the time.
Cool. Thanks for joining, Jay. All right, I'm gonna give another 30 seconds of elevator music, and
well, I got something as a soft one. So I want to get some feedback. What does everybody think about the Diamond Pomelo, the final blend? How was your experience? How did they look? Just want to get some feedback from people. I know Yves got. Is he still here?
Yves
No,
left us.
he left. He left us. But yeah, he was proud of his diamond pomelo. I want to get some feedback from people. How did people like the art? How did people like the experience? I'll let someone go first. Or nobody's. I think Martin. Martin has some diamond pomelos. I know that. I think Martin is probably sleeping too.
If nobody else has feedback, I have a question about them.
Yeah, go for
Did
it. Or
they
anything. Yeah.
in their final form, do they have any functional purpose, or is it fundraising, fun, and cosmetic?
Yeah, it's going to be cosmetic and
Okay.
again fundraising. We're going to be don't know yet, but we're going to be adding them also as Pomelo profile images as well. So you can add them as Pomelo profile. You build a little select your avatar with your your heart shape Pomelo. But it does not exclude other third-party applications to use them, and sometimes we have applications like Dungeon Master that has mining weights or future things. There's always third-party applications that kind of bring these NFT collections back to life. In 3 months, 6 months, or whatnot. So the possibilities are definitely open, but we do not have anything other than cosmetic and sort of looking pretty. They look amazing.
Yeah.
Love to add some trust bonus action to this NFT collection, but there was no way to make it fair or legitimate in terms of proving that buying certain NFTs makes you an individual, a unique individual or anything like that. So it's just purely cosmetic at this point. But like Denny says, who knows how they'll be integrated in other games like Dungeon Masters or others.
For sure. And that's kind of why I was asking. Before I started researching and looking at Pomelo and like figuring out what to support and whatever, I wasn't sure if that would amplify a trust bonus or do something like that. So just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, no, we definitely did think about that, but that opens up a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I
I
think
get it.
EOS Starter has, right? Is Hernan? Oh, Hernan also left. Oh no, Hernan is here, right? That opens up a different type, right? So if you've got NFTs that give sort of financial boosts, we could, but it opens up another realm. But
What if cosmetic? It makes our lawyers much more comfortable.
Yeah, Hernan, you can do the difficult stuff, with the boost, NFT boosts.
Yeah, well, of course, I'm the fact that our NFTs do give you increased access and potentially increased allocations to token sales. That I really, I'm an entrepreneur and developer because of my stuff, but I understand that has to be dealt with more carefully.
Yeah, for sure. And John, I think you were trying to say something as well. John from Boyd.
Yeah, I was wondering if I know that you have plans to add like a curation part of Pomelo where you could like curate a list of things to donate, and maybe the default ordering of curators depends on having a diamond Pomelo, for example.
Oh, for curation, I think, what were you calling it, Daniel? The groups or collections?
Collections.
Yeah, this could be more of another, additional feature with Pomelo, which will be a bigger rollout where curators can select saying, I'm going to create a collection of my most favorite X topic grants. And that way, instead of donating to a single group, you donate to a collection. That collection will split your donation among the collection. We still have not yet implemented that type of grouped collection curation, but it's something on a roadmap.
I think what John's suggestion is maybe the order that we sort curators in our browsing section would be influenced by their NFT collection. You'll be higher in the
We'll have the badges and all. Like I think once we implement the attributing, right? So we have a profile, we have a border of your profile, badge. We can use that as filtering. Say like only find me the curators that have a golden or a diamond Pomelo badge. So we can definitely leverage that filtering attributes. So yeah, it's a good idea there, John.
I think in general, that's where my interest in NFT lies. As soon as they become functional and more than just cosmetic. So even if it's something minor like sorting curators, like that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And then we do have a whole entire sort of technology stack, like proving that you. So the profile pics right now are provable NFT. There's an actual smart contract that will enforce that you are the rightful owner of, and it's not just a it's not just an image. You do have to prove that you own that asset. Kind of taken from the inspiration of Twitter profile images for NFTs on Ethereum and Polygon, but it's still very beta. Like
over time, maybe we'll have other ways that you can earn NFTs. Not just through the promo, but maybe it's like a badge that you earn from certain things, like your behavior in Pomelo. The top donors maybe get a special NFT, and then again, it becomes a provable token of hey, this is someone who's provably completed some milestone.
All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up at this point. So thanks everyone for joining. Final call: if you want your pop tokens, get into the stream chat, enter your EOS account name with the money sign in front of it to be added to the list. We'll be sending those out shortly. And yeah, thanks for joining everyone. Next week we'll be doing the raffle, end of month raffle for March, which is going to be going down next week. So try to accumulate 5 pop tokens before that to join the raffle.
Can you send us the link to blend the pop tokens? I think I have a ticket already ready to blend.
Yeah, I'll share the link in the stream chat later on. The blend is not yet up, but it will be shortly. All right, thanks everyone for joining. Have a good evening or day or night, or whatever it is for you, and we'll talk to you next week. Let's go EOS.
Thanks everyone. Go EOS.
EOS.
Thanks, guys.
Go EOS. Thank you.
Go EOS. Enjoy the Pomelo season, guys.
Great chat, guys. Go EOS.
Happy Pomeloing.